It is difficult to tell whether the speaker approves of Hemingway's lifestyle or not. He was famously macho and spent a lot of time hunting wild animals, going to wars and getting into fights. All these things got into his books, and the speaker thinks that this is not necessarily a good thing, as it means that too many people prefer to read about his life than read his books. Howard believed that all clouds belonged to three distinct groups: cumulus, stratus, and cirrus. He added a fourth category, nimbus, to describe a cloud in the act of condensation into rain, hail, or snow. It is by observing how clouds change color and shape that weather can be predicted, and as long as the first three types of cloud keep their normal shape, there won't be any rain. A recent trend in the entertainment world is to adapt classic works of literature for either TV or movies. One argument is that this is to everyone's benefit, as it introduces people to works they might otherwise never have, but is rarely done successfully.
Roman writers and orators began to expand their imaginative and intellectual horizons and refine the Latin language through the study of Greek literature. Early Roman literature had two kinds: the recording and examination of public life and behavior through life stories of famous men, and the particularly Roman art of satirical comedy and drama.
Clemenson wanted to see if claims of question dodging actually held up, historically, not necessarily in the unique case of Trump. So Clementon analyzed the transcripts of 14 presidential debates, from 1996 to 2012. Overall, he found 51 accusations of question dodging, 26 by Dems, 25 by Republicans.
By this time, however, paleontological momentum had moved to England. In 1812, at Lyme Regis on the Dorset coast, an extraordinary child named Mary Anning, aged 11, 12 or 13, depending on whose account you read, found a strange fossilized sea monster, 17 feet long and now known as the ichthyosaurus, embedded in the steep and dangerous cliffs along the English Channel.
They controlled for the bird's age, sex, body size, and species. And they found that the hunted specimens' brains were actually 5% smaller, on average, than the brains of birds that died by other means. The surprising thing is that, if you make a smaller kind of analysis of liver or heart size, there is absolutely no difference there. So this is specific to the brain. Kinderman says he thinks the compound could be a win-win for the planet and the animals. You know, the methane is kind of a waste product. And this energy, instead of losing it for the animal, it can be reused for the animal in terms of performance, and at the same time we are doing something for greenhouse gas emission and climate change. The product's not on the market yet. Toxicology tests are ongoing. What we found is that the plant is actually damaged by herbivores like most plants are in nature. And in response to that, it secretes sugar from the wound edges where the herbivores have damaged the plant. Tobias Lortzing is a graduate student at Freie University Berlin and one of the study authors.
A hazard assessment should be performed for work involving distillations of organic liquids and should thoroughly address issues relating to residual water and possible decomposition of the solvent in question, as well as the physical placement of the distillation apparatus and heating equipment to be employed.
The beginning of the 21st century will be remembered, not for military conflicts or political events, but for a whole new age of globalization, a flattening of the world. The explosion of advanced technologies now means that suddenly knowledge pools and resources have connected all over the planet, leveling the playing field as never before. At the end of this year, we will launch the Cup-class boats. So these will be about twice the power. The sailors are down in cockpits, unlike today. A lot of the power is being generated by these four grinders that are providing hydraulic power, and that energy is being used to control the flying surface, the hydrofoil, and is also being used to control the wing and the flaps, effectively the engine, of what we have. Current research models indicate that climate change associated with increasing levels of greenhouse gases is likely to lead to the soils in the interiors of the major continents drying out. In response to a drying of cropland, people are likely to seek either new sources of irrigation water or new, wetter areas to farm. If we choose desalination of seawater as a possible solution, large amounts of energy will be required.
Another virtue that both propagate is that the present is meant to be enjoyed to the fullest. It is no use fretting about the past, for it cannot be undone or overturned, and no use pondering too much about the future, for it remains unseen. The day being thought about may never dawn on you. The ultimate service, however, remains the one done for your fellow men.
Astronomers have recently discovered a large cloud of gas, in which many new stars are being formed, not far from our own solar system. While it would seem surprising that this phenomenon hadn't been previously noticed, the researchers explained that recent innovations in measuring the distance of gas clouds more accurately led to this discovery after older observations were reinterpreted. Fin whale songs contain signals that are reflected and refracted within the crust, including the sediment and the solid rock layers beneath. These signals, recorded on seismometers on the ocean bottom, can be used to determine the thickness of the layers as well as other information relevant to seismic research.
Historically, what has been used to estimate bats has been photographic estimates, visual estimates, mark recapture estimates, and those have been highly prone to bias. Newer technology, like thermal imaging cameras, is accurate but expensive. So at a time of epic bat mortality due to, for example, the fundal white nose syndrome that's wiping out bats in Canada, and the U.S. Cloper says her method might be a cheap, reliable way to determine the most critical caves to save.
The speaker reminisces about his views of the English Revolution when he was a student and how it seemed quite clear which side he was on: the aristocrats, not the Puritans. Later, he realized there was more to it than that, and there were several ways of interpreting the revolution: as a struggle between the king and parliament, as a class war, or as an unpredictable situation without clear sides. Delone and MacLean's model has been criticized by some authors. Indeed, this model is specific to contexts of voluntary use of information technology. The usage variable remains a success variable of information systems if the user himself decides to adopt or reject the technology. However, for mandatory uses, such as for ERP systems, the use of the technology is obvious. The success of information systems cannot, therefore, be measured by usage. Currently, integration is increasingly needed in the business environment. This need emerges from the efficiency and synergy requirements necessary in a complex and turbulent environment. In other words, integration is needed to facilitate coordination, which is again related to the building of competitive advantage.